So, first come to sit with a long spine. We're going to practice Kapalabhati to start. So, I'll talk you through. So first, closing the eyes. Ah, Meghna, I didn't get to say hi to you. So elongating the spine. Closing the eyes. Starting to bring the awareness inwards. Relaxing the shoulders, the jaw, all the facial muscles. And then bringing your awareness to the breathing. First, just noticing your breathing. Noticing the natural rhythm of your breath. And slowly starting to make the inhales and the exhales the same length. And we're going to bring the palms together to chant Om. Inhaling. Om. And if you know Kapalabhati, you can go ahead and do 3 rounds of Kapalabhati. If you don't know this, who's never done Kapalabhati before? Zoe, you're okay? Yeah. Okay. Taking a few breaths in between each round. Using this to awaken the mind. And if you're finished, you're going to do 5 rounds of Nadi Shodhana. If you need a reminder, you exhale completely. Inhale through the left. Exhale, double through the right. Inhale through the right. Exhale, double through the left. And that would be 1 round of Nadi Shodhana. When you're finished, come back to the equal breathing. And bringing the palms together, rubbing the hands together, warming up the palms. And bringing the hands over the eyes, opening the eyes, and releasing the hands. So, we're continuing on with the Yoga Sutras, This next part is a little more difficult than some of the previous ones. So remember, we've talked about all the different ways to bring a calm mind, to get rid of a distracted mind. And now we're on Sutra 1.40, 140. So if you have your manual, you can have a look. I'll go through word by word. Parama, which means the greatest or the most, parama. Anu is the smallest. It's like the smallest, smaller than an atom, minute. And then parama again, so greatest or the most. Mahattva, which is largest or magnitude. Anta means ends or extends. Asya, his. Vashīkārah is mastery. So putting all that together, his mastery extends from the most minute to the greatest magnitude. So this is referring back to some of the previous sutras where we learned these different ways to concentrate the mind. So here Patanjali is suggesting that the person that has mastered the concentration of the mind is able to hold the mind stable in relationship to the smallest all the way up to the biggest, right? The largest. So from thinking about from the smallest, minutest particle of an atom all the way up to the universe. So when we've achieved this, we're able to mold the mind to anything in between, from the smallest to the largest. So, sounds bizarre, right? So this is a quote from Vyasa. Meditating between the two extremes, the mind acquires unimpeded power of holding on to whatsoever object it desires. This would be complete mastery over the mind. So we have mastery over the mind because I know if I've decided that I'm going to concentrate or meditate on an atom, I'm going to be able to keep my mind there. If I'm going to concentrate on the vastness of the universe, I'm going to be able to find stability in my mind and in any other object in between. So this will aid us on all levels. They say that when we have mastery over our mind, it releases us from suffering, right? Because most of our suffering has to do with our mind and the way our mind is perceiving the things around us, the things that happen to us, everything. It's about the way our mind perceives everything. And then it also helps bring about understanding and insights, because you can imagine if you are concentrating so fully on something, then it's going to reveal itself to you, right? You're going to get some understanding of it. If you concentrate so fully on the atom, you're going to understand, I don't know about science and atoms, but you're going to understand, so don't quote me if I'm saying something incorrect, but you're going to understand all the minute parts of that atom, right? So it's going to make more sense with the following sutras, in fact. So Sutra 1.41, 1.41. So kshīna, which means dwindled or diminished or weakened. Vritter, which is the mental activities or modifications of the mind. Abhijātasya is perfect or beautiful, or sometimes pure. Eva is like. Mane is a jewel or a gem, and often in this sutra it's referring to a crystal. Grahītri or grahīta is the experiencer or the grasper. Okay, I'll explain it in detail after. Grahana is experiencing or grasping. Grahītri-grahana-grāhyeshu, I guess, sorry. The experienced, the grasped, or the object. Think of your object of meditation. Okay, this one's long. Tad, which is that. Stha, which is resting or staying. Anyanatā is saturation or anointing. Samāpattih, coinciding, simultaneous occurrence, or falling together. Okay, so we'll explain this in detail. So it's a long sutra, even translated, so I'll read that out. Just as the perfect crystal assumes shapes and colors of objects placed near it, so the mind with diminished mental activities becomes clear and attains the state devoid of differentiation between meditator, meditated object, meditating, or grasper, grasping, grasped. This identification is called samāpattih. Okay, so let's go through that one. That was a big one, right? We're starting, basically, it's talking about the different levels of samadhi. The previous one is referring back to Sutra 1.17. So if you want to review, go back to that. Very often they're kind of crisscrossing with each other. Okay, so kshīna-vritter. This means a weakened fluctuation, the weakening of the modifications of the mind, dwindling of the modifications of the mind. Okay, so it's not complete cessation of the thoughts or the modifications, but they're dwindling. They're starting to go away and they're starting to be more controlled. Okay. So in the sutra, Patanjali is using the analogy of a pure gem. And as I said, most of the commentaries, they're saying that this is referring to a crystal, because a crystal, it's pure, it's clear, and when you put a crystal down and then you put, let's say you put a red flower beside it, it's going to reflect the shape and the color of that flower, right? So this is another quote from Vyasa. So remember that Vyasa is the first commentator of the Yoga Sutras that we know of. It's in writing. So, as a transparent crystal influenced by color of an adjacent article appears to be tinged by it, right? I'll reread it, especially I know some of you, it's not your first language, English, so even when it is your first language, you need to read it many, many times. So, as a transparent crystal influenced by the color of an adjacent article appears to be tinged by it, so the mind resting on an object and engrossed in it appears to take on its nature. Okay, so the mind resting on an object and engrossed in it appears to take on its nature. A mind set on subtle elements and being engrossed in them is colored by the nature of such subtle elements. Okay? A mind set on subtle elements and being engrossed in them is colored by the nature of such subtle elements. Okay, so when we are engrossed in something, then our mind is colored by what we are engrossed in. Okay, and so he's talking about subtle elements because it's referring to a type of samadhi. So a mind absorbed in gross elements is colored by their gross nature. Okay, so gross means subtle are things that we can't see and touch, but we can kind of understand, like maybe a thought, the universe, the mantra, a sound, the feeling of the soul in the heart, these kinds of things, subtle natures. A gross object is something that, like a tree, a river, a deity, a candle, something that I can actually touch and see and feel. Okay, so where was I there? A mind absorbed in gross elements is colored by their gross nature. Likewise, when the mind is occupied with the thoughts of a liberated soul, the mind displays the nature of such a soul. So if we concentrate, if the mind gets engrossed in the nature of a liberated soul, Jesus or Ramana Maharishi or whoever, other sages, then the mind is going to get some of the nature of that soul, right? Okay, I just want to see. Okay, so this, I think it has a lot of meaning in it beyond just thinking about samadhi. So the idea about, and we'll cover those in the next, after the holiday, because it's school holidays, we'll cover the different kinds of, start to cover some of the different kinds of samadhi. And here he's referring to the next couple of sutras, okay? So basically we can have samadhi on subtle objects and we receive insights and understandings. We can have samadhi on gross objects and we can receive insights and understandings upon those, right? So we could think about this if we want to go inside and understand, the infinite, the reality, or what is this body, who am I, all these kinds of more spiritual kind of inquiries, we can go in and we can get some understandings. When we go deep and we go quiet, then we get those spontaneous understandings that come about, right? So it works, it's a sutra that is really talking about our spiritual path, right? But as we're trying to bring our yoga sutras to our daily life, we can also look at it as if I place my attention somewhere and I get engrossed in that, I'm going to take some of that nature, right? So it could be looked at also kind of like a warning, right? Because if I get engrossed in something that I don't want to be reflected in my mind, right? Because the mind it's pliable, right? They say the mind is plastic. So I'll use a funny example because Gerald's in Paris and my kids were dying to rewatch the entire Friends series. Do you know this? It's a sitcom, Friends. Amazing, it's really fun. I love it. But so right now we're watching a lot of those sitcoms, there's like 15 minutes, we just keep watching them over and over. And then what I'm finding is I'm going through the day and I'm thinking about, oh, Ross and Rachel, or, Chandler and Monica. And when I'm, even in my sleep, they have entered into my dreams. And so for me, this is completely an example of this. I've been spending too much time engrossed in this TV show that it's starting to kind of be with me, be with my mind, with me in my sleep. Okay, I guess it's not so harmful, it's kind of cute, it's funny, and it's a temporary situation. But let's say that we are putting our mind into violence, right? Watching maybe violent films over and over, and we get hooked on those Netflix series, and I find that when I watch a lot of those, then I can see that my behavior, my mind, it's disturbing to me. Okay, so, or think about COVID right now, when we're watching the news over and over and we're reading all those different articles, then we start to see that our mind is being absorbed into that, and then our mind is reflecting what we've been reading, right? Whether it's the fear, the anxiety, the, uncertainty of the future, different kinds of things like this. One little project that I've been doing that's kind of going off track a little bit, but thinking about when reading all this news and what the current events of what is happening at this moment, I'm trying to, and then I feel that anxiety entering in my mind and in my solar plexus, in my body. And so I've been stopping and asking myself, what am I believing, right? Because as my mind is being absorbed by all this crisis, then subtly it is believing some things, right? Whatever it may be, believing that, this is gonna last for the next 10 years, life is never gonna be the same for me, it's going to affect my kids for a long, their long time future, or, whatever. Just like sitting back and really going inside and seeing what am I believing because of all that absorption that I have taken into my mind. And then we can deal with that. Okay, so if it's like, oh, the yoga studio closes and then blah, blah, and we start rolling with it, right? Do you experience this, right? It just like starts spinning and spinning because it's the vrittis, right? Because I have not been able to stabilize my mind. So when we're looking at a sutra like this, it's also teaching us, like, even if we're not when we're on our meditation cushion, we're trying to get absorbed, and maybe we'll have some glimpses of samadhi, but then when we leave, we're in our daily life and we're moving around and we kind of forget this, right? The longer we spend in meditation, of course, the more absorption we get. Then when we go out of it, then like watching Friends, it's going to follow me around through my day. Right? But at the same time, I think it's also important to be aware of how we are getting absorbed, right? We get absorbed into our work sometimes, and sometimes it might be important to take a pause and get out of that work. It depends on, if the work is exciting or not. But I find when I get work that's really exciting for me and I'm just dying to finish it and go deeper and deeper, sometimes it takes me too far, and then I'm not able to, I don't want to go to bed, right? I just want to keep doing my work till, especially creative stuff. If anybody's in creative things, then you just, you want to keep doing it, right? So we want to really pay attention to how our mind is being absorbed into different things in our life. Okay? Because the mind is plastic, it is definitely picking up the environment around us. It doesn't mean that we don't want to be informed, but we want to be informed just enough that we're not getting too absorbed by that. Okay, then we come to these other 3 words that are talking about the process of meditation and concentration and samadhi, actually. So the 3 words are grahītri, grahana, and grahya. So they are getting, like a literal translation would be grasper, grasping, grasped. Okay, so the grasper is, you could say it's the experiencer, the witness, the cognizer of experience. Okay, so it's, yeah, I don't know how to find other words. I hope that makes sense. The cognizer of experience, something inside that is experiencing, right? Then there is grahana, which is grasping, experiencing, or the act of cognizing. Okay, so this is going to be that link. So if you imagine inside, you have your experiencer, and then there is the act of experiencing, right? So there's something there that's coming outwards. So then grahya, which is grasped, okay? So it's the thing that is, which is being cognized, okay? So it's the object, for instance, the object of your meditation. So let's say that I am meditating on a flame. Okay, so there is the experiencer who's experiencing the flame. Right? Does that make sense? So there's 3 parts there. So I'm kind of skipping a lot going into the second pada, but it might make sense for you who practice Ashtanga yoga, because we see in Ashtanga yoga there's concentration and meditation and samadhi, dharana, dhyana, and samadhi. So we are first concentrating on something. Right? So think about in our yoga practice that I need to concentrate to get those poses, or I need to concentrate to keep my mind on that flame, right? And then there is meditation, which is when that concentration, I don't have to, because when we're concentrating, my mind goes, I come back. Oh, my mind goes away again. I have to bring it back. There's this constant when you're practicing, right? Oh, what's the next pose? Oh yeah, bring that back, right? Oh, what do I have to do later? Oh, I bring it back, right? And so when it becomes meditation is when there's not this effort to keep bringing it back, and it's just, you're able to concentrate for longer periods of time, basically. This would be meditation. And then there's this point where you are one with it. You're not even recognizing that there is you and there is the flame, then there is that linking, right, mechanism. You are practicing, and it just feels like sometimes we're just one with our practice, right? And so that would be a version of samadhi. Okay, so you have to understand those three words to understand that sutra. So, and normally what is happening is that this is all mixed up, right, in our mind. right? I'm experiencing, I don't know who's the experiencer, there's objects around me, and we're just walking around that world kind of all mixed up with all that. And then what is happening is our witness or our experiencer or our grasper is identifying itself with, you know, all those different objects, right? And when we're talking about objects, it doesn't always have to be a gross object, right? I might be identifying with, I'm unintelligent, right? I might think I'm unintelligent, and you may have heard this as a child, you're unintelligent, and then you start to absorb that, right? And then I'm experiencing myself as unintelligent, right? But this isn't true, right? This isn't the truth. This is something that has been placed there in your mind, and then you start identifying it with it. You could be identifying with your age, right? I am or your gender. I am female. I am, you know, that age. I am that nationality, this kind of thing. And so we get confused, and the mind is getting confused, and it's hard for us to find clarity, right? And so this is our normal state of being. It's difficult to find clarity. We cannot see things as they really are. It's cluttered with our misperceptions, with the things that have been placed there from our experiences, from our upbringing, from our education, from society. All these things have been placed there, and we start to identify with them, and we don't know where the truth is. So it kind of goes back to this concept of kleshas, right? The kleshas that are perpetuating our suffering, right? So the kleshas, remember, it's avidya and raga, dvesha, smita, abhinivesha. So it's the, you know, our ignorance of knowing who the real reality, who our real self is, desires and aversions and grasping after them or trying to get away from them, our sense of ego and our clinging to life. I don't want to die. I want to keep this body. I want that body to last forever. Okay, so this is our normal state of being. And what we want to do is to slowly clear things away and be able to concentrate really well, right? So we talked about that before, but you know, as I'm sitting here and I'm talking about this, I need to try to find clarity of mind. If I'm thinking, oh, I'm hungry, or oh, what are the kids doing? Then it pulls me out of my clarity of mind, and then I make mistakes, or I forget things, or I misunderstand, you know, one of the words, or things like this. Okay, so samāpattih, this word samāpattih. So this is meaning falling together. So we have those three words that we already talked about: the grasper, grasping, grasped, grahītri-grahana-grāhyeshu. So we have those, and during samāpattih, those three things fall together, right? When they fall together, it's like they become one, right? There's no difference between the three. So there's no difference between the experiencer, the act of experiencing, and what I am experiencing. Or think about, there's no difference between the cognizer of the experience, the act of cognizing, and what is being cognized. So falling together. And it is synonymous with samadhi. Okay, so Georg Feurenstein explained it as the technical term of samadhi. right? Because it's the act of falling together. Whew. That's big, no? So that process brings about insights, knowledge, understanding. Okay, so the next few sutras, they're going to talk about, so it relates back to Sutra 117, as I already said, which is vitarka, vichara, ananda, bliss. You know, meditation on subtle, gross objects, subtle objects, the bliss body, and ananda. What did I miss? I missed something there. Wait, I have to look at my notes. I missed something there. The I am-ness, the asmita. There's one more there. The sense of I, the I-ness, right? Okay, and so in the next few sutras, he's going to detail the sabija samadhi, which is samadhi with seed, so with an object. Okay, I think that's good for this one sutra. I think it's a lot, and I think it's going to give you some ways to focus if you're doing some sitting meditation. It gives you some ways to focus for that. It gives you ways to focus and concentrate when you're on your yoga mat. It gives you some ways to consider what you're allowing your mind to be absorbed in. Okay? So if we allow our mind to be absorbed in things that we don't want to pick up its nature, then I suggest, you know, it doesn't mean you don't watch the news, right? We want to be informed, but try to ask yourself, what am I believing? If anything is giving you some anxiousness, right? What am I believing for this? What I usually find is that what I'm believing is really far-fetched and that things will be okay. Right? Ultimately, everything is going to be okay. If I'm getting nervous about having to give a lecture, or next week I'm giving a vinyasa teacher training, so of course it always gives me a little bit like butterflies and things, and so I can ask myself, what am I believing? So some of the things that I might be believing, usually they're negative, unfortunately, is that, oh, people aren't going to like my class, or I'm going to fumble, or my body's going to hurt too much, or I'm not going to be able to demonstrate, or people are going to judge me. It's usually going to be things like this. And so then when I recognize that, it's important for me to recognize it, because otherwise it stays as tension or anxiety and I can't talk myself through it. Then when I say, look at all that, I'm like, you know what, Linda, you're going to do the best you can do, and some people may like it, some people may not, but all I can do is the best I can do, and I know that I have some information to share. And then it kind of calms me down, it relieves the anxiety, and makes me be more natural within myself. And then when I'm more natural, then I don't know, sometimes I give a good class, sometimes I don't give a good class, sometimes I say intelligent things, sometimes I say unintelligent things, sometimes I'm skillful, sometimes I'm unskillful, right? And then, but I can accept that in myself, right? And I can still care about myself and see myself as a being that deserves to be respected and loved and cared for, okay? So I think that sutra, I've kind of taken it, and expanded it a lot, but this is what that sutra tells me, okay? Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a little meditation, and you have a choice. So because Vyasa was talking about, likewise, when the mind is occupied with the thought of a liberated soul, the mind displays the nature of such a soul. So either you can meditate on this either by envisioning a soul that you feel you would like to have some of that nature, be absorbed into you. So it can be anything. Like I usually use Ramana Maharishi, but you could also use, it doesn't even have to be a liberated soul. Let's say there's somebody, you know, that embodies compassion for you. You can bring that soul into your heart and you're going to absorb some of their qualities. If you can't happen to think of somebody, because it could be anybody, it could be your sister, it could be your mother, it doesn't need to be somebody fully enlightened, it could be a good friend, and it could be any like, you know, Martin Luther King or these great souls. Or if nobody comes to mind for you, then it could be, you could visualize that great soul which is within you, which is within all of us. Okay? So I wanted to explain it before because it's going to be hard for me to really talk you through in detail when you have to choose for yourself. Okay, so I'll start you on the inward process, and then you're going to bring your mind to what you're going to absorb yourself into. So first, sitting up straight. Allowing the pelvis to feel heavy, the legs to feel heavy. So you feel this steady sitting base. And allowing the spine to grow out of this steady sitting base. Allowing the shoulders to feel soft, the arms to relax on the legs. Allowing the neck muscles to soften, the throat to soften. Relaxing the jaw. Relaxing the tongue, the palate, the insides of the cheeks. Relaxing the lips and all around the mouth. Relaxing over the nose, the cheeks, around the eyes. Softening the eyes behind the eyelids. Softening the forehead and the point between the eyebrows. And start to bring the mind to the breath. Noticing the quality of the breathing. Each time the mind wanders, just gently bring it back to your breathing. Allowing the mind to settle. And start to bring the object of your meditation to the heart center. Feeling the qualities of that soul. So you can both visualize the physical body while also feeling the qualities. We're going to sit quietly. And when the mind wanders, try not to judge it, just gently bring it back to your object of meditation. You may have to do that many times. You do it with gentleness, patience, compassion. Bring the palms together, the heart center. And we'll chant Om Shanti to finish. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Om. Stay. Thank you.